What's up, Hoopers? Ashley Nicole Moss here, and welcome to Triple Threat, where we dive into all the topics you are already talking about on your timelines. And if your timeline is anything like mine, it's all Luka, it's all Nico, it's all LeBron, it's all Lakers, it's all Mavs. And we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk some Jayson Tatum. I have a full house with me, but first, we got to get into Luka. And if you're new to the program, I, in my opening monologue, the opening tip, as we like to call it, am constantly letting you know a little bit about myself, breadcrumbing information, if you will. And one thing about me, I can be petty. And Luka, you and I are one of a kind. If you guys haven't seen this picture circulating on social media, check this out real quick. As a Kendrick Lamar fan, I absolutely love this. Say Dallas, because that is the exact energy that Luka was coming with in last night's game. It is the first game that Luka has faced his former team. Now, this game wasn't in Dallas. It was in LA, so it was probably a little less contentious than it would be, or not even contentious, I guess emotional than it would be if this game was in Dallas. But that didn't stop Luka from taking his subtle shots. And I gotta say, Luka, I'm all here for it. We want more. The people want more. Why? Because Nico Harrison deserves all the smoke. Now, it first started with a Jordan ad where Luka is changing his license plate. Now, this is where I felt for Dallas Mavericks fans, because as a Knicks fan, this would break my heart if this were a New York Knicks player. He changed his license plate from a Texas license plate with his number 77 to a California license plate in Lakers colors. If that wasn't enough, though, Nico Harrison, was present at this game, and you kind of expected that to be the case, right? We talked about this, or I talked about this yesterday on CBS Sports, and I said it's probably going to happen. But the way that Nico was lurking around, watching Luka during warm-ups, looking at him from the corner of his eye, it was like that ex who broke up with you, but is constantly watching your stories or liking your pictures on a random Tuesday. And if it sounds like I'm talking from experience, it's because I am. Like, Nico, you broke up with him. Leave the man alone. But Luka, in true Luka fashion, in true petty fashion, and again, speaking from experience, he said, oh, you want to watch? I'm going to put on a show. And a show he did. He was doing push-ups during warm-ups. He was goofing around with his new teammates during warm-ups. He was making shots and eyeing down the Dallas Mavericks bench during the game. And one thing that I absolutely loved is that he also, after the game, this is where things got a little bit interesting for me, gave love to every single one of his teammates, but didn't acknowledge Jason Kidd. Now, I don't know if Jason Kidd knew what was going down. I don't know if Jason Kidd put up a fight for his boy Luka, but whatever the case may be, okay, Luka is dealing with everybody who holds some sort of power in the organization with the exact same energy. This quote right here came out from The Athletic in an absolute bombshell report, and it blew my mind. It's a long quote, but one of the things that stuck out to me the most was that they mentioned Luka's social habits as the reason that the Mavs were unhappy with him, including his taste for beer and hookah. Now, I'm a New Yorker. Okay. And I get hookah's a big thing in the European market and European countries. It's also a big deal in New York City. And for me, I've seen people smoking hookah in the summer and, chilling outside. And I'm going to tell you this. They ain't putting up Luka numbers, all right? They're not doing what Luka does in a game. They're not making all NBA. They're not making all-star teams. They're not leading their team to the Western Conference Finals and then the NBA Finals. So my thing is this. If Luka wants to drink a little beer and smoke a little hookah and, be a cool guy, let him do that, because at the end of the day, you're getting results. I don't know what the Mavs are trying to do. I don't know who was breadcrumbing these reports. It is maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. I find it interesting that after Luka has an insane game, a triple-double against his former team, all of a sudden his taste for beer and hookah is a problem, and it's going to lead to his demise. What are we even talking about? He's 25 years old. He's a generational player. The Mavs, listen, you broke up with the wrong girl, but you got to let her go. She's on to greener pastures. Guys, don't move a muscle, because when we come back, we're going to continue our conversations about Luka. We're going to talk some Jayson Tatum, and we're going to talk about why the old heads are hating on the young guys. I got Brad Botkin and Zach Aldridge joining with me right here on Triple Threat. Welcome back, everyone. I promised you a full house, and a full house we have, including the Jordan gang, because we all decided to rock our J's. This was not planned, by the way. We're just swaggy like that. Guys, when I was doing the opening tip, I alluded to this report that The Athletic dropped conveniently 4 hours-ish ago, the day after Luka has an insane triple-double on his former team, where they said, and this is a direct quote. I didn't read the whole quote in the opening monologue, but I'm going to read a part of it right now. They call him lazy. They talk about the weight issues that were frequent frustration within the walls. They mention the social habits, which have been a point of concern for NBA types since he was 19 years old. He has a taste for beer and hookah. They predict his basketball demise, highlighting a health history that some see will likely lead to a catastrophe in the next 5 years or so. Is this not the most insane thing you've ever heard? This is Luka. Like, what are we talking about?
So dramatic. It's so dramatic.
To his demise?
Yeah, a catastrophe.
Come on.
So I got to know what, if this is like a basketball catastrophe. I'm hoping that that's what they're talking about. Like, this guy's not going down the tank like in life. But
I think he's doing okay in the life department.
You know, they're clearly trying to say that they believe that he's going to go down like a Joel Embiid path, that he's going to be one of these guys that 2 years into his max deal that he's going to be up for, that they didn't want to give him. Mm-hmm. He's going to be unable to stay healthy. It's going to be this ongoing, recurring theme where he's out in and out of the lineup and can't be depended upon. That's a hell of a speculation to make. So, you know, when you have a guy like Luka Doncic, all of this stuff that's trickling out, these little nuggets of justification for the most insane trade any of us have ever seen, it's just, you know, a lot of things that were going on last night in terms of Nico and him. He didn't dap up Jason Kidd. I mean, there's a lot to it.
I'm gonna also mention this Mark Spears quote before we get Zach involved here, because one of the things that was interesting, I felt like, was Mark Spears had I think he sat down with a podcast within the Boston Celtics universe, and he said that Jaylen Brown is actually the reason. It's like it's raining reasons and justifications here, but for him, he said what he did to Luka in the finals, shutting him down, guarding him full court, making it unbearable offensively, led to Dallas questioning Luka as the leader of the team and questioning whether or not he was in shape. Now, to give you guys some information here, Zach, Jaylen Brown averaged 20 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 5 assists in 5 games in the finals. When you talk about Luka, he averaged almost 30 points, almost 9 rebounds, and almost 6 assists in 5 games. So this is no knock to Jaylen Brown. Obviously, he won Finals MVP. We know all that. But if that's shutting Luka down, I don't want to see what it looks like letting Luka run free.
Yeah, the spin cycle I feel that we're getting on the back end of this trade is getting crazy. Like it's too much. Like can we relax? Can we just stand straight for a second and let's just call ball? Luka is generational. I don't even care, honestly, if they are afraid that Luka is going to go down a Joel Embiid path, like Brad just said. Still give me Luka. And no shade to AD at all. I would rather have Luka on my team for the next 2-3 years before a catastrophe happens than let this trade happen. And people love to put the clips up on social media of Luka getting cooked and not playing defense in the finals. You're still in the finals. He's playing defense in the finals. I don't care that Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP. Every day of the week, give me Luka and give me nothing else.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, and this is another kind of domino that's falling in the Luka situation, Brad. there was a report regarding Nico Harrison. And once again, he said, which this blew me more than I feel like the beer and the hookah thing, because he said it was reported that he didn't want the Mavericks to revolve around Luka and made it his mission to trade him by the summer. In what basketball universe do you not want your team to revolve around a generational player?
No,
that's the whole idea.
It's insane. All of this stuff ties together. They're not suggesting that Jaylen Brown is a better player than Luka Doncic. What they're saying is they're taking this little tidbit of their matchup and saying Jaylen Brown pushed him up full court and tired him out. Yeah. And now, A equals B. Luka's out of shape. People are going to be able to expose. So ridiculous. But you're going to run this sort of like heliocentric offense that we see with Trae Young or James Harden or Damian Lillard when he was in Portland. You're going to tire your guys out. So let's not maybe make an adjustment in terms of the way we play offense. Let's move a little bit more. Let's put the ball in Kyrie Irving's hands. No, let's just say Luka smokes too much hookah.
And drinks too much beer. You forgot the beer.
It's crazy. So, this idea that it just seems more and more like it's this ideological thing that Nico Harrison, and I believe Jason Kidd, I believe this long.
You think he was in on it?
Really?
I believe this long before the no dap up last night. He just, everywhere he's stopped, he's had sort of this heavy hand in Brooklyn, in Milwaukee. He wants to he reminds me of Mark Jackson a little bit in that way when he was with the Warriors, and he wants to have his prints too much on things. And I think that sometimes when a team completely revolves around a player doing everything, and you almost eliminate the coach from that equation, because nothing goes on with the Mavericks. They just put the ball in Luka's hands at the top, and he runs pick and roll, and he makes all the offense go, and nobody has anything else to do with it. There's some ego involved, I think, in a guy like Jason Kidd. I could be completely off base here, but that's what my smell test says, is that he didn't. That organization didn't like that nobody else was ever going to get credit for anything because it's so much revolved around Luka. So I think it's more from an ideological ego standpoint of the organization as a whole. Just like when Jerry Krause was so adamant that Michael Jordan didn't win us these championships. When organizations win championships, GMs win. Everybody wanted their slice of the credit. And when you've turned over an organization and an offense by extension through one person, it sort of eliminates the credit that can be doled out to other people. So that if there is a conspiracy theory, that's mine.
But when we think back to the first press conference that Nico and Jason Kidd had, it looked like to me that Jason Kidd he wasn't really in cahoots with them because his body language,
that's he wanted what he wanted you to say.
I just don't know.
And Oscar,
he didn't want to step out and be at the front. I mean, Nico's crazy too. I'm not saying that Jason Kidd went in and said, do this. Yeah. But I just think it wasn't just
the most mind-boggling thing. I mean, we saw what Luka did last night, an absolutely insane triple-double. We're seeing him just kind of
didn't shoot that well.
I mean, didn't shoot that well, but again, he's still trying to get his legs underneath him. He has missed a lot of time. It's going to be an adjustment period, but we kind of have seen him seamlessly figure out a way to play with LeBron, at least in the capacity in which he's able to coming off of an injury, right? We've seen JJ Redick speak so highly of him and actually figure out a way to get Luka more involved defensively as well. We saw that, right?
Shocking, right? Luka and LeBron are good together.
I know. Oh my God. Two of the greatest players. They can play together. But I think for me, the thing that is still so mind-boggling is that maybe there is some truth to all these little stories. Maybe there were concerns about Luka's weight. Maybe there were concerns about his off-the-court activities. Maybe there were concerns about everything is too much centered around Luka. All of those things are fixable.
Right. Yeah. No.
It wasn't so catastrophic where it was like, he's got to go. We can't fix this. You can get him a nutritionist. You can get him in the gym more. You can change your offensive schemes.
That's why I say
there's so much you can do to fix it. They didn't want
Luka as the epicenter. Or any player.
But that's why you draft a player like Luka.
What if there's a world, if we want to take the Mavs side in this, and they've tried to get a new nutritionist. They've tried to get him to change his ways, and he's not.
He's still producing triple-doubles at the yin-yang.
Can you get to a point, I guess maybe you can rationalize it and say, okay, he's about to be due all this money really soon. We've tried A, B, C, D. That's all not worked. So we got to ship him out.
I do think that's rational. Here's the thing. You always want to be ahead of trends. Like anybody like in the stock market that's just waiting for the evidence then it's too late.
Right.
So you do want to get ahead of things. But there are certain players, Luka being one of them, that like, even let's just say they tried all that. And they're like, man, and they're really trying to forecast and project. There's a couple of players where you still go against the prognostications.
What's
you
the
still
alternative?
say, we're going to roll our dice.
And more importantly, what's the alternative? Because you're not getting a Luka in the next draft or the draft after that or the draft after that.
You got AD, and you can win right now and maybe 3 years from now.
And on that note, we are going to take a quick break because when we come back, apparently kids today have no respect.
They don't?
Welcome back to the show, everybody. And before the break, I teased that someone believes that kids today have no respect. Now, Zach, you and I don't have any kids. Brad, do you agree with that statement? Do kids have respect?
No, my kid's pretty good. But generally speaking, I kind of get where we're going, where I think we're going.
Okay. Well, according to Shaq, who's never one to shy away from sharing his inner thoughts and speaking his mind, he says that the NBA players today aren't appreciative of what has been done before them, and they're making way too much money to not put effort into things like All-Star Weekend. Listen to this.
I saw the video of it today, you and Tim Duncan holding up the trophy, and then that was the year where Vince Carter won the slam dunk contest, and they showed you with the beanie on with the camcorder. What do you remember from that All-Star game?
As a youngster, my father always taught me to take pride in the fans and believing in you. You guys pay a lot of money to see certain people perform. We're also making a lot of money. It was our job to go out there and perform. So the fact that I was voted All-Star, I wanted to come put a show on for the people, especially for the kids. Kids wearing your jerseys, everybody's wearing your jersey. I wanted to put on the show. So the fact that we're changing the formats and doing all that just tells me that the guys are not appreciating the things that have been done for them. Trust me, if I'm making $80 million and I'm a young player, I'm going to play so hard because I know the next contract I could be making $150.
Yeah, you did a 360 dunk.
Vince put on such a show. The crowd was going crazy. The next day, we had to continue that. Imagine a great dunk contest in a boring game. I've always, just took pride. If people going to pay to watch you perform, just give them their money as well.
Okay, so this is I'm walking the line here. I'm going to walk it. All right. I get what he's saying about the lack of effort. We've had this conversation when it comes to the All-Star game in recent years, right? But the whole NBA players aren't appreciative of what we did for them. Like, okay, Shaq, slow your roll. I sometimes feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, I sometimes feel like the old heads, and I say that with love, that is a term of endearment, have a little bit of animosity and jealousy that these young guys now are making exorbitant amounts of money, and it's not the type of money they were seeing back in their day. And they use things like the All-Star game to see, this is why they don't deserve it. No franchise is looking at the fact that LeBron didn't play in the All-Star game as whether or not they're going to pay him. They don't care. All they care about is the end result when it comes to wins and losses for the Los Angeles Lakers. They don't care about the All-Star. That does not make, yes, it gives you the accolade and there could be incentives in your deals depending on how your contract's set up, but that's not going to make or break whether or not you're getting paid. Stop it.
No, but what Shaq is saying is that you owe, no team is making that decision on whether or not they're going to pay the player, but they're saying that because these players are being paid so much on the backs of fans, because of TV contracts and all these prices, that you owe it to the fans. It's not from an organizational standpoint. I agree with Shaq. I think he's remembering himself and his era a little bit too fondly. I think people have dogged it in certain games forever. I think we get nostalgic.
Talking about All-Star games dogging it?
No, I've seen some really good ones in the Kobe era.
I'm not saying we haven't, but we do it with Michael Jordan and the LeBron debate. You always remember everything more romantically. I do it like myself when I think about like playing high school, but like I used to do. It's like when I was, I remember it better than it was. I remember like playing harder than I did. I just don't think that it's, I think if you went back and looked at 1996 basketball, whenever there were nights that guys didn't play hard. I think this is just continuing this conversation. They need to play harder in the All-Star game. They need to. I think it's more of a load management issue if we're talking about what you owe the fans. All these things to me are intertwined. they do make a lot of money, and they do make it on the backs of fans, and that should be respected and appreciated. But tying all these narratives to the All-Star game is starting to get tired.
Yeah, it's starting to get annoying. Yeah.
I think that most players in the NBA today could 100% appreciate and recognize they are in these spots right now because of the fans, because of all the things that can tie into how much money they make. I think that it's fun and enjoyable for the older heads to sit
the
here
old
and
heads.
say,
Call them what they are. Old heads.
First, I want to be a little bit for the older heads to sit there and say, like, oh, okay, well, back in my day, like, no one likes to get off my lawn guy. Like, I think that, like, you want to insert yourself back into the conversation. So that's what Shaq does. But he will always be in the conversation because he is a great, and no one's knocking that.
Yes.
But, like, we appreciate what you did, Shaq, and just this is how the game is today. Like, could improvements be made? Yes, but I don't think, like, it's not everything was all rose gold back in the 90s.
That's exactly right.
Like, there were issues back then, and there's issues today.
Yeah,
like, it's never been perfect. It never will
When
be.
people talk about the defense thing, like nobody. Oh, back in the day we played. Go watch a 1984, 80. The defense is a joke.
Yeah.
It's four unathletic guys standing around, no space. Nobody has to cover any space. Michael Jordan's just getting left alone at the top of the key like he's Ben Simmons. It's unbelievable. And people
Ben Simmons
I'm telling you
crazy.
the truth. Like, you go watch the clip. The idea that everybody on every play was just like taking each other's heads off is a joke.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
But this is my point, right? I sometimes feel like the older players, and we've seen it over the course of the last week and a half. You saw Tim Hardaway Sr. come randomly at Tyrese Halliburton saying he wishes he could suit up so he could beat him up on the court.
Tim
and it's
Hardaway
like,
wasn't even that good
let's
when he
simmer
played.
on down,
I grew up a Warriors fan. Like, he was good. I think he's got his jersey retired in Miami. He's a good player, but like, Tim Hardaway doesn't need to be being my era guy.
I just feel like the my era guys, and I just feel like the back in my day guys, it's like a subtle way of hating. Like, you're kind of mad.
It's not even that subtle.
It's not even that subtle, but sometimes it's like it's a little bit more subtle than like a Shaq, for example. It's like you're mad that the era that you played in required you to be a lot more aggressive, a lot more physical.
It didn't.
It depends. It depends. Like in the 90s, it was a lot more physical than it is now. You can say that. You can make that argument.
I guess if we're talking about grabbing and hand checking and stuff,
there was a lot
this whole
more you could do.
Romanticizing that it was like a heavyweight bout.
No. I'm saying in comparison to today's game, you can say that it was a lot more physical.
I'll say this: it's harder to play defense now than it was then.
But this game the guys now are so much more athletic.
Yes.
They're better athletes. So it's
everything about defense is harder now.
It's just the ultimate kind of like hate, I feel like. It's a very subtle and sometimes not so subtle way of saying, I don't know why these young guys are making so much money, because back in my day, the game was a lot harder.
And that's all
like,
it is.
You're like, simmer down, bro.
You're jealous. You're jealous.
Also, if people are going to make them when they're making too much money, let's go back to like the 70s at least. Like, I don't need Shaq and Tim Hardaway talking about these guys make too much money. I'm pretty sure Shaq and Tim Hardaway have never had to do any work other than play basketball.
They're still making mills.
They made plenty of money.
Still making mills.
Go back
to
JJ
Redick say they were playing again back in the day in the 70s. They were playing as the plumbers and the teachers.
You guys are going to love this. So I was in a documentary one time on the guy that is credited with inventing the jump shot, Kenny Sailors. It's a very cool documentary. They asked me in the thing, they showed all this footage of Kenny Sailors playing in the 40s for the University of Wyoming. And they were like, could you have played in the 40s? And I'm watching this footage, like no one's jumping, they're shooting, like, and I'm like, played? I would have been an all-star. And then I thought, no way, I go to the film's release at South by Southwest in Austin. They left it in, and I'm sandwiched between Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. And they're like coming on showing their respect. Oh, guys in the 40s, they paved the way.
And here you come.
I would have been an all-star. These guys were a joke.
And they're looking at you like, who's this guy?
I can't believe you guys left that in. Unbelievable.
But it's true.
But it's true.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Zach.
Like, even the money that you made in the 90s and the 80s, like, if you compare that to an average Joe, an average American, you still are so wealthy. So, like, stop all the complaining. You were born when you were born, and you got paid what you were paid, but you were paid well.
Yeah,
you were paid so much more than the vast majority of Americans in this country. So, like, just chill out. It's okay.
And chill out, bro, because eggs are $10.
But it doesn't need, and you can't even get eggs if you can find them. But but the point is, no matter how much money they owed it to them back in the day, they owed it to the fans. That's how they made their money then, and that's how they make it now. It's not comparing the salary now to the salary in the 90s or whatever. It's the point is, you're in an industry of entertainment, and I have this argument with people quite a bit. The teams approach this thing from a competitive standpoint. Everybody's going for it. Listen, somebody wins a championship every year. That's not what drives the league. That's what drives the team.
Right.
What drives the league and the money that they make is a Broadway show. Every single night, you're supposed to show up and put on a show for the fans. That's what gets the TV contracts. That's what gets the fans into the arenas. That's what sells the merchandise. Somebody's going to win the title every year. That'll matter to the organization, to the players, but to the league as a whole and your paycheck, it is completely dependent upon the fans. You don't go to a Broadway show and only see the lead actor twice a week. They're there every single night. That's what you paid for your ticket for.
Because when you see the understudy, you are not
pleased. That needs
pleased.
to be respected.
Yeah.
So whether that's through the prism of load management, whether that's through the prism of all-star games, you can look at it through a variety of lenses. But that is the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line of this is that Jayson Tatum is not feeling the love. He wants his RESPECT.
Saying it now.
I'm with Jason.
We'll talk about that after the break. Welcome back to the show, everybody. And it was freezing in this studio earlier on, and now it's hot because Zach was firing off on all cylinders at the commercial break, and he's going to share with what he shared with us in just a second because we're going to talk Jayson Tatum, and he is not feeling the love. He spoke to the Washington Post recently about if he feels appreciated by NBA fans, and he said, quote, "Honestly, no. If you took the name and the face away from all of my accomplishments and you're just like, this is what player A accomplished at 26, people would talk about me a lot differently." Now, his trainer, Drew Halen, who we also had on the show recently, well, not also, we didn't have Jayson Tatum on the show. We had his trainer on the show. Let me just clarify that. Hopefully Tatum wants to come on the show at some point. He said this: "I think he has a Hall of Fame resume already at 26 years old. I think he hasn't even scratched the surface of his prime yet. I think we're watching one of the greatest basketball players ever to play the game. When it's all said and done, I think he will be mentioned as one of the best basketball players that has ever played." Now, Jayson Tatum's resume at just 26 years old includes NBA champion, 3-time All-NBA first team, and 6-time All-Star. So that's a hefty resume for a 26-year-old, and there's a high possibility he becomes a 2-time world champion after this season. But Zach, you said that's all good and dandy, but...
Yeah, I'm not knocking his athletic skill, how good he is as a basketball player. He's great. If we want to ask, is he a Hall of Famer right now? I don't think so, because I need a bigger sample size. But when it comes to...
what bigger sample size
I still
is
need it. That's not enough. That's a very good player, but I need you to see it for a longer period of time than to put you in the Hall right now.
Got it.
I think that when it comes to what fans and how the media views Jayson Tatum, the issue is, and I don't know him. I've never met Jayson Tatum, so I'm only going off of how I feel and what I see. He's just not an interesting or fun guy. He seems boring. There's no cool edge to him, and you don't have to have an edge in one way or another, but I see nothing that's different than just walking the straight line. Like, the kids love to say that SGA has all this aura. They love to throw that out there and talk about him. And I can see that. He just has a way about him. You look at other people who are the faces of the league or who are in the conversation, Anthony Edwards, he'll give you a cool soundbite. He has cool commercials. He seems like a guy like, okay, I could ride out with him. He seems just like me. That's a cool guy. Jayson Tatum, like, what is there? And is this Nike and Jordan's fault for not putting him in the right kind of ads? Like, okay, LMA, all right, cool.
Oh, like, my God.
But like, what is there that you see where Jayson Tatum is like, okay, this can be the guy that people will gravitate to? There's just nothing there. And it's not even a Duke hate or anything like that. It's just, he just seems an even keel guy, and an even keel guy is not going to get you to the top.
Well, what's wrong with even keel? I mean, Brad, you're a Warriors fan. It's not like Steph Curry is the most, flamboyant, in your face, goes against the grain. That's never been his thing. It's just you love watching Steph Curry chuck up these amazing shots and they go in.
That's the thing.
But when you talk about Steph's personality, which is what Zach is talking about in this thing, it's not like he has this larger than life personality where it's like, oh my God, his swag is crazy, his sound bites are crazy. He's just a chill guy who's a phenomenal
with a chill game as well.
What's wrong with being a chill guy with a crazy game?
Steph's game was never chill, so he was doing things that no one ever did. So I didn't need his personality to be crazy because I want to play like him. So you can be however you want to be, have this great, wonderful family. I love seeing Riley when you're coming up, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can get behind it. And you play a little golf. Your dad was a hooper. Your brother's here. Your sister.
Tatum plays golf.
Okay, but like he doesn't have anything. Like his game is just smooth and fluid.
What's wrong with that?
And nothing's wrong with it, but it doesn't get you excited. It doesn't.
I think there's validity to what Zach is saying. I mean, Steph's game, to his point, is that's a bad comparison because Steph is just unlike anything we've ever seen.
No, I was just comparing personalities, not games.
He's pure fireworks. But to Zach's point, I think that what Jayson Tatum is saying when he with that quote is he's talking about basketball. He's not talking about the Anthony Edwards face of the league. He's not a face of the league guy because of the things Zach said. Now, from a basketball standpoint, I also think there is a slice of underappreciation for him because of also what Zach said. And I think that his game is easier to get lost in the shuffle of a game. I think that if you watch the Celtics play, there is, to a casual fan, there is an ability, if you want to take this route, to say that he's sort of a sum of the parts. He's one of the parts of five awesome players. If you look at the accolades and say all these times, I think he's been in 5 conference finals. Yeah. He's been in a couple of finals. He's won a championship. Yeah. But there's always other guys on the team early on with Kyrie that were like the faces of the team. He was sort of seen young. When he was young, he was sort of tagging along a little bit. Now, even if as he's gotten older, now this is not the case. He's the best player on that team. He's the best two-way player on the team. He's the reason that they're the top title contender, I believe. But it can get lost in the shuffle. It's so smooth.
Yeah.
It's that you can kind of forget what's happening. It's almost like a not quite as good Kevin Durant, where it's just pure. If Kevin Durant wasn't so unbelievable, and he was just DeMar DeRozan, like an unbelievable mid-range shooter.
We're not going to shake DeMar, man.
I'm just saying that type of game has to be so extraordinary to get recognition. I do think there's a little bit of Jayson Tatum that I agree with. He's going to be one of the best players ever. I also agree with that he's not going to be seen that way.
But I also feel like it's maybe Jayson Tatum is just a victim of the era, right? Because for me, when I think of a team, I'm going to equate this to a team like the San Antonio Spurs, for example, the old school Spurs with Duncan and Ginobili and Parker. Those guys weren't overly charismatic. They weren't overly swaggy. They played really great fundamental basketball that if you were a true basketball fan, you were watching poetry in motion, offensively, defensively. It wasn't overly flashy, but it was always effective. I look at a Jayson Tatum and I'm just like, I appreciate that about Tatum. And sometimes that's your whole persona. I'm a chill guy with a fluid game. I love Kobe Bryant. I bring championships to Boston. I'm not a big trash talker. I'm not overly flashy. I go out there and I play my game. And essentially, you talk about Jaylen Brown. He won conference finals MVP and finals MVP. Jaylen Brown essentially is the same kind of player. Game's not overly flashy. He's not going to talk the most. He's not going to always give you a crazy soundbite. He's a little bit more of a under the radar intellectual kind of guy. It reminds me a lot of Kyrie, but his game speaks for himself. What is wrong with that?
And because of that, we're not going to speak about you. That's the issue. Like
he's a conference final MVP and an MVP.
Everything you just laid out is the reason why
why
Yeah.
what Zach say. All these, if we were in the middle of the social media area, I assure you, Tim Duncan and Tony Parker would not have been the guys everyone was talking about.
We're always talking about guys are not producing enough on the court. We're always talking about load management.
You're right.
We're always talking about guys not taking their craft seriously. Why don't we allow the game to uplift? Why is it gotta be whoever gives you the most?
That's why Jayson Tatum is saying he's not appreciated. You're right.
Yeah.
But this is sort of like the reality of it. I don't think any of us are saying this is how it should be. I think we all agree that what you're saying is right, and we should. And even Jayson Tatum's saying it. It should be appreciated.
Yeah.
But what he's saying and what I'm agreeing with is that that's not how it is. Jayson Tatum's actually right. There's a reason why Tony Parker's not going to be not about with like the great point guards. You're going to say
He's not
over the conversation.
Are you kidding me?
He's not
even close. But if you lay out the accolades, this many time champion, he's a chill guy. He goes out and hoops. There's all these rationale, but he's not going to be. He's not going to be memorable
for you,
in that
right
way.
now, Jayson Tatum, I read off his resume, NBA champion, 3-time All-NBA first
one
team,
of the best players in the league.
6-time All-Star. Is he a Hall of Famer right now?
I believe so, yes. I believe so. But to his point, I mean, he's only played how many years? 7 or 8?
Roughly.
So I would put him in right. If his career
ended right now,
is he a Hall of Famer? Both knees.
I would vote for him, yes, right now. But I do think there's something a little bit about a longevity piece. Let me see it into your 30s a little bit.
Hey man, Andre Iguodala's in the Hall of Fame.
He should be.
I'm just saying.
But listen, Tatum's in. He's not blowing both knees out tomorrow. Cross your fingers. So he's in.
Yeah.
And he's going to be one of the best players of this era. There's no question. But it's a separate conversation of whether or not he's going to be recognized as
Well,
such.
look, I will say this. The Boston fans will be coming for you when this clip goes live on social media.
And that's fine.
So giddy up, cowboy.
That's fine.
When we come back, these guys are sticking around because we're diving into our bag and answering a social media question, or having you guys answer a social media question. And this one is interesting. Welcome back to Triple Threat, and Zach has calmed down. He's taken a breather. Jayson Tatum, I apologize ahead of time. Just trust and believe I do not share his thoughts and his feelings. Moving on, welcome to In Your Bag. This is a segment where we dive deep into our social bag and get answers to a question that I randomly pose on my social media. And this week, in honor of Luka's first game against his former team, I posed this question on my social media. I said, if you had only one draft pick and that pick could get you any player for your team to win a championship, who would you trade for? And the answers were interesting. So let's dive deep into the bag and get our first one. Embiid to the Hawks. I guess injury sliders are off.
Right, have to be.
How do you feel about Embiid on the Atlanta Hawks? How'd that look to you?
We're doing a player to a specific team.
Yeah, so they're a fan of the Hawks, obviously, and they're taking Embiid on their team right now, current roster, to help them win a championship. Injury sliders are off.
Have to be off.
Yes.
Well, did the person that wrote in on this, did he? That wasn't specified.
I'm putting it out
there.
That
wasn't specified.
Injury sliders are off.
Either way, I mean, that's who you're taking? Embiid? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the idea that him and Trey would pair together, traditional big inside-out combination, but Joel Embiid is just not something you can't. If we're going to have an honest conversation about this, you can't turn the injury slide. What do you say, sliders?
Yeah, sliders.
That's a video game.
Video game.
You can't turn them off.
But you have to. For right now, you got to wrap in your
draft pick to get Joel Embiid. This is not a real scenario.
Yeah.
Fine. Then this guy wants Embiid over Jokic.
Good question.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a ridiculous. We're playing fantasy here, and that's what you come up with.
I have a feeling that
That's
Jokic
insane.
will be somewhere in the
That's
mix.
insane.
Let's dig into the bag again and see what else we got here. Because Luka for the Mavs, he wants the whole thing back.
I think he goes back to Dallas.
I shed a tear for you. Obviously, a Mavs
Chef
fan.
K, sorry.
He wants his old thing back. I feel you. I get it. Okay. Sorry. Been there, done that. Next answer.
You're not getting
here?
it. That's
funny.
Let's dig into the Jokic to the Lakers. This was too easy. How do you feel about that?
That's what you need. of a Jokic, Luka,
now we're
LeBron combo.
Now we're talking.
That would be
Now we're
like
cooking?
Warriors at their peak,
Yeah,
to the point where folks are hating on, and I think hating on that way faster than they did in a KD situation. Like that would be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That would be wild. And
I don't know though, because it's not like Jokic is going to the team that beat him.
Right.
That's why KD
Okay.
Denver would have a meltdown.
That might be the greatest team ever.
They would be so good. Like it would be fun to watch for a season, but then after that, okay, break it up. I don't want to
So
live
good.
through this again.
Like we were pumped when the Lakers got Mark Williams for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Like they need a center, and then they pick up Jokic. That would be insane.
All I know, though, is if you
this
think-
guy, whoever wrote this,
Yeah. Shout out to Sean.
He knows the spirit of what we're talking about.
Tell me
Embiid to
how
the Hawks.
though. Imagine the Mavs fans had a meltdown. Imagine what Denver would do. They would lose their mind. You lost Jokic
To the Lakers.
to the Lakers. It
not-
just
yeah.
it would
But it
be a
would be the best
travesty.
team ever.
The
Yeah.
hate would be through the world.
Yeah.
Like in that situation.
Yeah, I don't think Jokic would even be able to step foot back in Denver. Yeah, it'd be over
Jokic
for
might
him.
not go. He might trade and she's like, dude, I don't want to do this.
Forget Denver and Carmelo beef. Like
I'm going-
Denver and Jokic
Oh,
beef
it would be forever. Let's dig into the bag again and see what else we got here. Mobley on the Clips next to Zoo.
I don't know why that should.
This is what we coming up with? Evan Mobley and Zubac? I mean, come on. You got to be better than this.
Well, I think
You're
maybe
not liking the fantasy answers,
This
Brad?
is crazy.
maybe he was trying to be like real prudent with his answer and say like, hey, forget a star of a big. I just want
Maybe
Evan
he was
Mobley.
really trying to think of what would work immediately in his roster.
And Evan Mobley's having a great year, but I mean,
Maybe like Mobley for Zoo. Like if we like traded him, like that's like the pairing everybody's dreaming on. At first, when I said Mobley, I thought like Coutinho Mobley.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking of Evan
Current
Mobley.
players
That's
only.
what we're coming up with. Like Evan Mobley's great, but
yeah.
yeah, no, Clippers with
Guys,
Clippers.
this is anything can happen scenarios.
Yeah, seriously,
you gotta mail
like,
it in.
this
a
isn't
little
like
bit
we're
more.
not throwing on the buyout market here.
All right,
Unbelievable.
we got one more. Let's dig into the bag here. What do we got? Wemby for the Knicks.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah, baby.
Wait, it took this long for somebody to go to Wemby? The guy that wanted Embiid. We didn't even think of Wemby. The Hawks guy
I would-
wants
Right,
Embiid over
right.
Wemby?
I would literally pick up Wemby from JFK myself with a full limousine driver outfit. I would get him a chopped cheese. I would get him a
Dude.
quarter water.
Because the
I get
one
him
thing,
a bacon, egg,
the
and
one
cheese.
thing the
Anything
Knicks right
you
now
want.
they can't defend. They can't defend. And like if we're talking about this from a practical standpoint, Mitchell Robinson coming back and whether they're going to be able to defend the rim and maybe makeups for Karl Anthony Towns on that end. Like
Yeah.
if you just like threw Wemby in there because they're
Yeah.
already like an elite offense with
Oh
the
my-
space.
it would
He can
feed-
space. He would cover everything defensively.
It would feed
Now
the
we're
city
talking.
for centuries.
Yeah, now we're talking.
They would build a statue of Wemby because you know what? I'm telling you right now, Wemby on the Knicks, we're going to the chip and we're winning.
If that's the five,
absolutely,
so
yeah.
the five would be Brunson, Bridges, Wemby, Towns,
I just got chills.
and Anunoby.
I just got chills.
With Hart off the bench.
Oh, my God.
Let's just say everybody stays healthy. We slide the health.
Yeah.
We slide the injuries.
there you go.
Yeah, see?
How many titles does that team win? Like they can win 4, 5.
least 4 or
like
5.
They keep going.
Oh my God,
Maybe
you just
they-
gotta chill.
Nah,
You
five,
guys, you're too
nah,
excited
six.
right now, Ash. Like,
literally,
you are.
I wish we could do a close up of my arms right now.
We finally played. Like,
I have
somebody
literal
finally came up with it.
goosebumps.
Yeah.
I literally have goosebumps. Okay, you're a Magic fan.
Right. Lifelong.
Give me a player you would trade to the Magic right now. If you can get any player you want, think about your current roster.
Right.
Who are you going for?
So I'm not going like the Wemby way because I want to be, while this is not realistic, I want to be realistic with it. I'm going Anthony Edwards. I think that he solves our offensive just ineptitude and issues where we can't do a single thing. He still buys into the defensive philosophy because that's what we're big on under
that's
Coach
good.
Mosley. So give me Anthony Edwards.
That's
He's
good.
shooting like 40% from three
Yeah.
land. We for sure are back to at least that number 4 seed like I predicted before the year.
Yeah.
And I like us really, really to compete in the East.
But then from an age standpoint, he's with Franz, he's with Powell.
Yes.
That's a
Yeah, like-
10-year team.
yes.
That's a 10-year
okay,
team.
Warriors fan. I know you got Jimmy Butler.
Well, I'm happy.
I know you're happy, but let's pretend Jimmy's not in the mix. Let's pretend he's not there. Who are you taking?
I wanted Durant. I wanted Durant to come back for
You
all
want
the
that whole
reasons.
thing back.
For all the reasons. No, listen. In total transparency here, I hated Durant even as a Warriors fan. I hated Durant to the Warriors the first time. I didn't like that we had just beat him. I didn't like it was an awkward.
cares?
It was an awkward situation. It was.
Got them rings, though.
I don't like when the 5 best players at recess gang up on the chess club, and that's not any fun to me. So, but this time, Durant coming back, the Warriors really needed him, and I think he would have been appreciated in a different way in terms of not jumping onto the bandwagon, but sort of saving a crashing bus.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a lot different. So I think that would have been fun, but you're not going to get me complaining about getting Jimmy
I know
right
you're
now.
not. You
our
looking
free
good.
throws are up. Our rim attempts
Listen.
are up. Our competence, our competence
while
is up.
I continue to daydream about Wemby in a New York Knicks jersey. I want to thank everybody for joining us here at Triple Threat. Brad and Zach will be back next week with a brand new episode. If you missed this episode, trust me, you want to catch up with it. And you can do that on the CBS Sports YouTube page.